Okay. I wanted to give you just a little bit of a backstory as to what I'm doing today. When COVID, I wrote this a few weeks back, and I thought I would keep it relevant around the COVID situation, which is what brought us all together originally. When it impacted, I was actually camping out in central New South Wales. The only sort of contact I had was a little bit of radio and a little bit of television if I went up to the camp kitchen at the campground I was at. So I was out in the hills in an old gold mining town, only getting a little bit of news. And then this one day I'd gone exploring and I came across this area that was just grass everywhere. And knowing that we'd finished a drought, and this is where the drought had broken, and the grass was growing like they have not seen grass for something like 7 years out there. So it's, really, really tall grass. And it just really resonated with me as I'm looking at the grass, being blown away by how it's moving and thinking about how I can't see the air. And it made me think, well, I can't see the coronavirus either, or COVID-19, but I can see the impact it's having. So it then just, inspired me to do some playing with the grass and dancing with the grass. And I also then took a lot of footage of the grass. And today I'm going to be doing a bit of an experiment and inviting you to have a play with nature. Through looking at an image on a screen. I know some weeks back we looked at some artwork, and this time it's actually some images of nature. As an occupational therapist, I'm also doing additional training at the moment as a nature-based therapist, and I'm looking at how I can bring more of this into dance therapy as well. And there's also been weeks where I've really felt like really fortunate that here I've been sitting on my veranda, as some of you have seen, where I'm surrounded by nature, and some of you as dance therapists are in apartments and you don't have a lot of nature around you. So it got me thinking that maybe I could share some nature with the group and we could do an experiential using nature. So I've not done this before, so I'm feeling I'm doing something a bit different. So I'm going to be inviting everyone to be exploring the nature element of air or wind, and offer you the opportunity to explore for yourself the impact of what that element may have for you. How does air move you? How does it affect you? How does it inspire you? Hi, Eri. It'll be about 12 minutes of using some video footage. And at one point, I will invite people to go to the screen where you can gallery view, where you can see everybody. I'll be throwing bits of information for you to think about. You may choose to totally ignore what I say. You might even ignore the images and just go into your own movement journey. That's absolutely fine. And we'll hopefully end with a gallery view, if that's all right with everyone, so that we can do some connecting as well. All right. So I'm just going into share screen. Ooh. Hang on. I've got to exit this, don't I? I'm not very good at the technology. Exit full screen. And bring it up. Right, can people see that? Oh, I've now lost everybody.
Hit your Zoom window again, and that should bring you back up. Then when you have the Zoom window, there is a green button for screen share.
Yeah, thank you. I've now got the screen. Yeah, I've hit the green button, but it's not. I checked all this out and trialed it and it all worked. Share.
Debbie, Karen has to give you permission to share.
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
But
it's
in the-
automatically.
Oh, you have.
One participant can share at a time,
Okay, what it's
and
doing is I've
all
got it on
participants
my
can share.
screen, but it's not. Let me just close a couple of things on my screen. And if not, oh gosh. Sorry, everybody. If you want to, oh, there it is. Okay. I might just need to get Helen to help. I did it before and it worked.
What happens when you click on the green share screen arrow?
Yeah, I'm just getting share screen arrow. It's not giving me that screen as an option.
So it's coming up with what's available to share, but not what you want to share.
Yeah, and yet I've got the screen open.
So have you got more than one screen?
No.
Okay, so it's going to share whatever is in your main screen. So you have to pull that screen up onto your computer and then share it.
Yeah, I've got it up. I've got it open. Oh, hang on. I've got someone next door. I'll just quickly ask them. Excuse me, Helen.
She's got a techo whiz next to her.
Technology stuff is the theme these days.
Yeah, Helen? Yeah. Can you give us a hand for a sec, please? Why isn't the screen coming up? This is what I'm wanting to show everybody.
Yeah, so on your Zoom thing.
And here's my Zoomy thing.
Yeah, so if you do.
Hang on. I think I've got something else open on Zoom.
So if you click share on the Zoom thing, go back to your Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay, and do share.
Yeah, but that screen's not there. Oh, okay.
Can they see now?
Can you
It's coming
see
up. It's
now?
coming up now. Yep, it's done.
Thank you. What had happened is I had two Zooms open. Okie doke. So you can see the image of the grass? Yep. Excellent.
Yep.
And everyone can hear me okay. All right, so just I'd invite everyone to start with just doing some breath. I like to do, with the kids I work with, I do a lot of heart and home. So hand on chest, hand on belly button, and just start doing some breathing. And just starting to let the sounds around me dissipate, becoming aware of my breath, feeling my feet on the floor, feeling my chest rise and fall a little bit as I'm breathing in and out. And then just seeing how your body might want to move with that breath, that breathing in and breathing out. If there's any way that you'd like to start expanding, whether it be in sitting or standing, feeling the breath rising, falling, concave, convexing. And then moving from breath to finding your center, the core. It might be around your belly button, belly, and starting to just doing a bit of a warm up with moving from that core distal pattern, that reaching out, expanding and contracting. Beginning to now move into the head and tail and feeling that connection through your spine between your head, pelvis and tail. And then thinking about the upper and lower part of your body. Maybe just moving your arms, the top half of your body. So stabilizing in the lower half and moving in the upper half. In nature, we often see there's a point of stability with a lot of movement and mobility happening around it or from it. And now maybe keeping your arms and upper body still and starting to wake up your lower body, waking up legs, hips. Just feeling what feels really good for you as a warmer. Noticing the connection through all of your body with breath, movement. And now starting to look at the sides of the body. So connecting one side, whether it be right arm, right leg, right side of your trunk. And really reaching as far away and bringing them together as close as you can on the one side of your body. And then changing to the other side. And then beginning to do the cross-lateral pattern, that crossing over, connecting the right and the left. The two sides of the body crossing in the middle, but everything being connected. And now if you could, in your own time, start to look at the screen, and hopefully you can all clearly see the image of the grass and the trees. And just taking a moment just to look at the picture, see what it is you notice about the picture. And as I turn the video on, you'll start to see movement. And just taking your own time, looking and feeling where is it in your body that you want to initiate the movement from? What's calling you from inside? Just looking at the movement. How does it affect you to see the impact of air, wind? And what starts to happen, is there any impact when sound comes with the image? The extrasensory input, what impact does that have on your movement? Are you noticing that your movement tends to be more up and down or backward and forward or around? What are the planes that your body's moving in? Are you connecting more with the grass? Or maybe the trees, or even the clouds, the air, the wind? It's around all of them. It's affecting everything around it. And looking at the distance, how does it affect your movement when it's not all so up and close, but it's out there, it's over there? You see the impact away from you. The impact of the wind, the waves blowing through the grass, the ripples, the ripple effect. The first wave, the second wave. How many waves? Where is there stability? Is there stability in your body as you're being affected and moving and expressing? That play between mobility and stability. As you're moving, I'd invite you also to be now looking at the screen. And if you can see someone else, see their image, can you connect? Can you see how they're moving? How are you moving? As the grass is each individual stalk, but it's all together, it's clumped. As the sound comes back, how does that alter, enhance, affect your movement? when you look at the grass close up, if you can see the grass, or if you can have a memory of seeing grass, touching, feeling, smelling grass, or a crop that might be quite tall, is there part that you connect with? Do you connect more with the roots, or the stem, or the leaves, or maybe the seed head? Is there a part of the grass that you really resonate with in your body, in your movement, or in your thoughts? And in amongst all this grass, how do you maintain your individualness? How do you maintain your connectedness to self, to other, to nature? And just taking your movement and beginning to find a way of bringing it into a gesture, a symbol, something that you can repeat to remind you of this connection with nature, the connection with air, wind, grass, trees. And just taking a few more moments to think about, is there anything else that your body would like to do to finish off with this journey, this connection with nature, this expression of nature? And if there is, just go for it. Do whatever it is that you need to do. And then we're going to come back as a group and share our gesture, where hopefully everyone could be on gallery view. So beginning to bring it to a close and coming into a gallery view and just sharing your gesture. Thank you, everybody.
And everybody can unmute themselves whenever they want to say anything.
Oh, it was really interesting because I think it was last week or the week before I showed a book that I had from years ago, Keeping Together in Time, and it's about dance and drill in human history. And the guy who wrote the book is William H. McNeill. And I started reading it, and he talks about muscle bonding. And it was like really interesting because the grass, even though it's not human, they seem to bond, like the wind makes them bond. So they're all moving in the same style, they're all in unison. Even no matter how high they are, how tall the grass is or how short the grass is, they all seem to be moving in unison and have this really beautiful sense of togetherness. And that's what I was thinking about, of how uniformed and how structured, but yet I don't know if it's unstructured, but it's fairly structured because the wind makes it move the way it does. And I was just thinking about that, and that how humans can do that as well, because he starts going into that, how humans muscle bond in terms of doing the same movements and things like that. So, and there was a beauty within it. There's this aesthetic beauty of moving together in time. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know if that makes any sense for you, but that's what I see.
Actually, Teresa, is something I would love to have done is to be able to really have the image up and for us to be like that chorus or that all moving in the same sort of rhythm. I'm not sure how to do it.
I know it's like really interesting. So, but that coming to my mind is that muscle bonding that he calls it, muscular bonding. So,
yeah.
I really enjoyed, Debbie, when you gave the prompt of considering, I think it was something about like how we keep our individuality or our sense of self amongst, you know, all of the grass. And I quite liked that because in a way it sort of encouraged me to do the opposite, or like by considering just myself and imagining that I was, say, one blade of grass. I was like, imagine if I was just one blade of grass and there was no grass around me. Like, what makes it so beautiful is the fact that, you know, there's like all of the grass there, like, you know, protecting one another and, you know, being able to like have the air move through it in a way that makes it so beautiful. And it just, yeah, in considering myself and my individuality, it felt like it just really reconnected me to the love of like community and that we are all interconnected and interdependent.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Debbie. That was just delicious. I'm quite blessed here because I'm surrounded by quite a bit of nature and wetlands and the bay in Brighton, in Brisbane. But the grass imagery reminded me that just up the road is a reedy lagoon, and there's a bird hide. And if you get up on top of it, and the wind comes along, and it's really psychedelic. So I think I'll have to get up there tomorrow when it's not raining, and just hopefully be there on my own and re-experience this moving with the reeds, because the reeds are just these hollow stems, just one stem, but there's just a whole lagoon full of them, and I'm watching the different colours of the reeds and the fantastic ripples of movement through it. Is again that sense of, you know, there's one sort of fairly solid thing, but you put them all together and you've got this wonderful, beautiful community all moving in just that random molecular way, I guess. And that was what I really tapped into with that, is that sense of, because when I actually get into an experience, I think about, as I'm moving the molecules in the air, that echoing movement just keeps going to infinity, basically. So thank you. That was lovely.
I was a bit distracted because I was actually having a tree cut in the backyard and I had to go out a couple of times and come back. But what I loved about it was the just the greenness, the scene, and then coming into it in different ways, particularly the sound. It was the sound that was just so beautiful. And you said, I think, you know, is it any different? And it just added to me an incredible other dimension, which I don't often think about. I don't often think about plants and grass with sound, but the sound of the wind through the trees, I suppose I do. But it was lovely, really was. It was a really, really nice experiential. Thank you.
I've found myself putting the COVID virus, which you can't see, together with air, which you can't see, and the only thing you can see is the trees moving and the flowers and so on, and then you know that the air is moving through it. And then I sort of linked that to the fact that I love going for a walk every day and feeling the air on my face. And I love the cold air that we're having at the minute too. It just makes me feel very fresh. And then as of today, of course, we have to wear our masks. When we go for a walk like that, we have to wear our masks. And I did that the other day and it was just horrible, absolutely horrible. And so I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. Anyway, it just, this sort of a whole idea of this cancel culture, you know, cancel that. Oh, well, you can't do this and do this, is quite frustrating. Thank you for listening to me.
Okay. Thanks, Debbie. That was good. And lots of good positive responses. So, Marcia, did you have anything you wanted to get the group talking about? Oops, you're not unmuting.
Can I say something while she's trying to unmute? Oh, no.
Oh, no, she's on mute.
No, Karen, were you talking to me?
Yeah. We just, I just wondered if you wanted to go on to another topic that the group could discuss.
Well, you know, it's interesting, and I know Connor wants to say something. I was thinking of something that I shared with the inmates today, and you know, when you kind of go to a visualization of some sort, your central nervous system doesn't know that it's not real. And for me, I was thinking about, well, why is that? And I drive through nature to get to the prison. I drive an hour and a half and I go through a mountain, and it's very beautiful. It's unbelievable. Someday I'll take some photographs to share with you guys, because there's these rock formations, and I'm always stunned by how beautiful it is. But you know, we're in summer now. In winter, there's ice, there's snow, the roads get closed, it's dangerous. And I was thinking of, now we had this big earthquake up in Alaska, and there's going to be a tsunami. And what's going on in nature? What is this COVID? This is part of nature. You know, Alice was talking about the molecules. Well, all these, you know, these microscopic things are going through the air. And Fran, you know, wearing her mask. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be in any grass. And I was thinking, well, isn't that interesting? Because I found a lot. I mean, for me, it was stability and mobility, which is very important. But how nature doesn't necessarily have to be a nice experience for people. And I had said something to the guys today because we were talking about a dead tree has more life in it than a live tree. And I said something that, have you ever been in a forest and seen a log? And one of the guys said to the other guy, do you know what a forest is? And you have to realize most of these guys have grown up in an inner city area where they have no nature other than maybe rats and roaches, you know, and the rains that come and the terrible heat or the terrible cold and things that we take for granted. So how do you introduce nature? And so all that was going through my mind today with this, and which is interesting. You know, when we just do as what, but all of that was going through me, and I'm interesting to listen to all of you talk about your wonderful experience and how it moved you in a certain way, and yeah, it moved me too, but not in the way we're talking about. But I think inside, and I know Connor wanted to say something, so I hope I didn't take away your thunder, Connor.
Not at all. It's interesting that Fran had said something about the invisibility of the air and the virus. And actually, what came to me that surprised me is I was actually feeling into the big, especially I think, Debbie, when you took us into the sky, I was going more into the bigger vision and that necessity of holding the bigger vision. So it allowed me to really kind of expand up and really go into 3 dimensions and really taking in that larger vision of what's out there. Because I know, you know, I mean, I live on this island right now, and the skies are pretty extraordinary, and the sunsets are pretty extraordinary, and there's just something about the vastness that keeps playing out to me. But it's also what we get used to looking at, because so many people are walking around like this with the phone in their face. And I feel like I now know what little nature gems to look for on Guam. So, you know, if I'm distracted and in the car with my husband and looking at my phone, I'm going, no, I want to look for those little cocoa birds right now. Or, you know, so it's a really interesting thing of vision, visibility, and invisibility, or ignoring or not even being in your environment. But you're right too, Marcia, about so many people have grown up in inner city environments and have a really different experience or no experience with nature.
No experience, yeah.
And what does that mean to them? The amazing, is it an interesting experience to go to the beach, or is it terrifying?
Yeah. And for every nature experience, as beautiful it might be to observe it, when you participate in it, there's always danger. You know, I'm thinking, like, I spent so much of my youth at the ocean, and I body surfed. I loved it. And then one day, when I was about 21 or 22, I had a kind of new boyfriend, and I was showing off, and I dove into the surf and hit a wave poorly, and I got smashed, you know, up on the sand, and I haven't surfed since. And I'm thinking of, you know, nature is unpredictable, and maybe that's our lesson in a way, you know, to keep us flexible. So it's one thing to look at it, it's beautiful, but when you participate in it, I'm thinking of the sports that try to overcome nature, so to speak. You know, you become a great rower or a great skier. But I'm wondering, it's just something that's really just coming to me right now. And thinking about these guys that I said something simple like, you know, walk in a forest and see a log, you know, with all the things that live in the log that you can see and all the things you can't see. And that was like, you know, saying to them, speaking another language in a way. So it's kind of interesting. So being the participant observer, that's what I was thinking about earlier today when Karen, you asked me, what is it to be the participant? And because right now, you know, one of the things that's being said worldwide is that because the COVID has brought up so much, I don't know how to put it. I don't know the words to use, negativity. All the stuff that's going on that's rotting in all of our societies. And they're saying people need to say something if there's ever going to be change, not to be complacent. So, I don't know. Because COVID is certainly, it's raw, it's making people raw. It's getting down to essence in a way. And it makes it hard to be the observer. We're all participants. And what does that mean? You know, are we active participants or passive? So maybe that's why for me in the movement experience, the stability, mobility was very important. What parts in us are stable and what parts can move us, take us further and hold the bigger vision in a way.
Nice speak. Thanks, Debbie, for that. Mine was very reflective, and yes, the part I was reflecting like the grass in me. So I'm actually grounded, but every time I sway with the news up in the head. So it goes this way, it goes that way. And then the wind blows this way, you know, my head goes that way. But what is interesting was the whole collective. And what came to me was, you know, the grass is like, I'm like the grass. But only thing is, you know, as a human, I learned to shelter from the elements. But they are out there. And every season they have this cold or the winds, or they are just naturally, you know. And what came to me was this, I think, Native American saying, like they thank, you know, the different directions for the love, for the warmth, for the sun. And then they thank the north for the wintry winds, because that is the gift, you know, of resilience and strength. And that was like revealing to me that that's part of nature too. But I just didn't want that. I want the rest of it, you know, but I didn't want the part that, you know, I have to, you know. So again, also I relate, you know, to COVID-19 and what's happening, you know. But I noticed that, you know, it is very in a collective. We are all connected and we all sway together. And then the grass naturally, well, they die. They do die. And then they rise again. And to them, like, what's the problem? And but to us, it's, you know, like, to me. So, yeah, just food for thought. Thank you. But I noticed that the tracks, every time I saw the tracks, I didn't want to go down there. So that's just for me. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Can you hear
Nice
me?
to take. No.
No?
Yes.
Thanks, Fran.
That's all right.
I wanted to say that with people using their cars so little around here anyway, everything's much quieter, and it brings to me a more awareness of the bird song. That I have a big jacaranda in my tiny garden, but the birds come there, and I've noticed more birds in the garden since we've been in lockdown. So the other thing is when I'm going for a walk in the park, I'm not looking at grasses because there aren't really grasses there, but my focus is always drawn to the trees, and I'm taking in the trees. some of them are fir trees, and some of them, they're all different kinds of trees there. I just love going to the park to take in that green. I had a memory from this experience, Debbie, that I used to go on a train with my grandson and to pick him up from somewhere. And when we get off the train, there was this deep grass along the train track, and it was his and my great pleasure to run through the deep grass and then stop at a certain point and run to a different point and stop. And he loved it so much, and he laughed so much, and we both had this lovely enjoyment together. So that was coming into my mind here and there. Thank you very much for the experience.
I'd like to share, I'm still processing my experience. It felt like a very powerful experience today. I thank you, Debbie, for leading and bringing in the element of greens, and that was beautiful. And when you started playing the video, I started looking out the window. I'm sitting in kitchen today. Usually I'm in lounge room, and I can see Mount Wellington. That's the Hobart iconic mountain, and I can see Mount Wellington through my kitchen window. And it's just like I was straight away drawn to the mountain. So I was dancing to Mount Wellington and the screen at the same time. So there was a bit of a kind of conversation going on. And it was interesting because your video showed the details of the grasses, but then what I see through the window is the vast picture of the mountain. So the distance, so dancing with those distance was very interesting. I'm still processing that. And lots of vertical straight lined movement came up today. And I just felt lots of connections to those straight vertical objects around here. Like there's a statue near the church. There is a Jesus statue just standing straight on top of the roof of the church. And I was drawn to that. And then there's my water bottle sitting on the table, and just like, all those straight vertical objects, I feel really connected to that when I started dancing to the grasses. And I'm still processing, like it feels very important. I'm kind of thinking like having this solid straight line, which is not affected much, but at the same time, like what Stacey was saying earlier, like I don't know, I feel the great connection to the world as well. I feel the great connection to other object that shares the same sort of shape. At the same time, that kind of highlights my individuality at the same time. So I'm not much making sense maybe, but I'm still processing. But it's very, very powerful sort of experience I had. Yeah, thank you very much.
So, Eri, my understanding around the vertical is it is very much about the eye. It is about, me. I know, in Steiner education, they talk about, the eye. And I think even in Eurythmy, one of the particular very much something to do with a vertical movement to represent the I, the me. Yeah. It was interesting for me to look at it again too, because I've actually just come back after 2 weeks in the outback, where pretty much there's no grass and it's rocks and boulders and dirt, and it was a real, I think I'm still transitioning actually, after, because I've done about 5,000 kilometers in the outback, and that getting closer to coming back to the coast and things getting greener. and then being around the green and then watching that today, it was sort of like, it actually felt a bit surreal that months ago I was where that grass was in March, and now I've just come back from, honestly, there's no grass all around Tibooburra, and I'm feeling a bit, there's a word, combobulated or something.
Discombobulated.
That's the word. Thanks, Connor. Discombobulated, or Marcy, whoever just said that. Yeah, and watching that, sort of like, whoa, I'm feeling a bit pulled between the grass, the green, the rocks, because the solidness of the rocks and the individual tree. And that, little clump of grass, it's all by itself. It's such a different feeling out there compared to seeing this like community of grass all moving together. Different.
I just two thoughts, we're talking about nature, and I still can't assume that all nature is positive for all people, but what is human nature? And I was thinking when I was very, very young, we had a very huge avocado tree in our backyard. And one of the first things I did when we moved into that house, and I was very young, I started to climb the tree. I was extremely physical and really adept. And I climbed a tree, and the tree ended up being my savior. And as I got older, I would pick the avocados, and I'm talking about a big tree. I'm not talking about a little tiny avocado tree. I'm talking about like 40 or 50 feet high, maybe higher. And I would climb to different branches, and I would feel confident on the branches, and I became friends with that tree. And, later on, as I became a little entrepreneur, when I was about 8 or 9, I would pick the avocados and walk down the road, sell them for $0.05 a piece. But it was and I'd lie under the tree, and when I would be practicing my dancing and my acrobatics, I always felt the tree supported me. And later on, when I did my shamanic training, you choose a place to go to your higher level to, and I chose that tree. And I was away from California, which is my home, for many, many years, living in Europe and living in New York. And when I came back, the first thing I did was go to find the old house. And the house had been sold, and they built apartment buildings there, and they tore down that tree. And it made me sick. It made me sick because it had been such an important part for me. And my first trip was the first training group in Australia. So it was probably second or third trip. We went out into the bush, as we were wont to do in those days. We would spend a weekend away from nature, from not to be in nature. And we were walking along, and I said, I have to find a place to go to my lower world, in my shamanic world. And as I said, we were all walking through the forest. There was a hollowed out tree trunk. And I thought, oh, you guys, that looks fabulous. And I fit inside perfectly. So I did a whole meditation, and I could see myself, using that as to go to the lower world. Shamanically, it was a really big deal, and everybody was there. It became very ceremonial. So the next time I was with that group, which would be about 6 months later, we went back, and it was gone. We couldn't find it. It wasn't that it had been chopped down. Sorry. This isn't COVID, this is my allergy. We couldn't find it. And everybody said it just was magic. It just appeared that one day. To have that experience. Because we looked everywhere, and people knew exactly what path we were on. It isn't that there'd been a lightning, strike. There hadn't been a fire. It's really interesting. But then I learned from one of my shamanic teachers, for both that hollowed out tree trunk and my avocado tree, said, once you've experienced it, it's always there for you. You don't have to have it in the material world. So that helped. But that was kind of an interesting, those two things have come up when I think about nature being beautiful and integrated with human nature. And after the really big earthquake in California, which was more than 20 years ago, huge damage, and we were all PTSD for months and months and months. And I had a women's group at the time. We used to meet weekly, and we met right after the earthquake. And I may have told you the story, and we started to move. We were feeling because of the earthquake. And what came up is that it really felt like we were going to make t-shirts that shift happens. It felt like something that was very natural. Mother Earth just needed to turn. And then we mortals, you know, had an earthquake. So that's what I wanted to share.
Thanks, Marcia. It's just on 1 o'clock, so time to move on to other things that we have to do today. Do we have a volunteer for next week to run the experiential? We could start have people doing a second go if you'd like. No volunteers?
Why don't we do what we did last week?
What wasn't here last week? So what was last
What
week?
was that?
I liked that. All doing it together.
Someone just started to move spontaneously,
Mhm.
and then called out someone else's name, and they did their movement, and so it went on until it came to a conclusion where everyone had the opportunity to lead it. We did think that it's, you know, some were a bit too long. So if you had a bell to indicate, you know, that's your minute or 30 seconds or whatever, that might work. I found it personally quite an exciting process. I don't know what others think.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Sounds great. All right, I'll tell Maeve that's the plan. Good. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming along. Thank you, Debbie,
Thank
for
you,
sharing
everybody.
that and sharing your beautiful pictures. Bit of nature coming into us, which is lovely. So we'll see you all back next week.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.